Hey guys, I'm Sage Valentine and I'm back to review another episode of CBS's Big Brother, Season 18, Episode number 17, so let's just get down to it. Some of you guys are probably wondering, isn't Bridget supposed to be besties with Natalie? Why is she saying that Frank is her best friend? Well, you have to understand that in the Spy Girls, there was kind of like a ladder where Natalie was first, Bronte was second, and Bridget was third. Natalie and Bronte were like this. Natalie, Bridget, and Bronte were supposed to be all like this. Apparently, as I said in a previous review, Bridget felt some type of way about the relationship or the closeness between Natalie and Bronte. Needless to say, that's why she's saying that Frank is her bestie and not Natalie. Either way, I think that aligning with Frank was probably the worst thing that she could have done in this game, because not only is Frank using her, but because of this affiliation, Bridget has this huge target on her back. Just massively huge. Now, as far as the episode is concerned, James is not upset about nominating Frank and Bridget, and he shouldn't be. Because, you know, if Frank was HOH, he obviously would have nominated James. And Frank tells James that he has no hard feelings about it, but he tells us, Frank I mean, that James has no backbone. Why? Because James didn't run and put Davon on the block again? Now, Bridget feels like she's been lied to. She's lonely in the house, and she said that James is a liar, and she's crying because she wants to win the veto, but lying is all a part of Big Brother, so I don't know what game Bridget thinks she's playing. Like Julie Chen said on Entertainment Tonight, nobody's really loyal in this game at this point. So if you're looking for loyalty, Big Brother is the wrong game to look for that. So just so you know, as usual, that whole dust-up between Bridget and Michelle was edited down to the bare bones, because I guess of time constraint. But just so you know, it started over a comment about Michelle's eyebrows that Bridget made. If you want to see that video, you might as well just Google or go on YouTube or look it up. I'm sure somebody has a video or something of Bridget and Michelle fighting. That fight was really interesting, and I didn't realize that Michelle was that angry at Bridget. I knew she didn't like Bridget, but I mean, that whole thing where she was so cold to Bridget, and she was just like, well, I was cool with Frank, and all of a sudden here you came, and I was like, wait a minute, hold up, where did all this come from? Man, I mean, we haven't seen that much of Michelle in the past few episodes, but Michelle is something else. She definitely is. And she's happy that Bridget was put on the block because Bridget seems fake. Now, James says, once again, that the reason why he put Frank on the block was because of the fact that Frank's name always pops up in the middle of all these fights that keep happening, and it is the truth. Again, Big Brother can only edit but so much. If you don't have the feeds, you don't fully understand what's going on. You only see part of it. So if people on social media are upset about something, you're just like, well, wait a minute, that's not how it happened on a TV show. Your best bet is to figure out a way to either get the feeds or follow a reliable Big Brother recapping account, or go on a website like mortystv.com, because these people really, really break it down. And they pay attention fully to the feeds. There was a misunderstanding that happened on Twitter via a specific tweet that had Davon saying that the next target was going to be Natalie. So all these people started going crazy, like, what do you mean? Why is Davon saying this to James if she's supposed to be aligned with James? Oh my God, Dave's so stupid. Oh my God, I don't stand with her. Oh my God, I can't stand her. It's so hard to be a fan of hers. When people should have calmed down and realized that Day was speaking in terms of the targets that the house wanted. Davon was trying to warn James that they have to be mindful of who they go after next, because the house would want to get out Natalie. And that is the truth, because Natalie's name has been thrown around by Paulie. And whatever Paulie wants, like the song says, Paulie gets. You see what I'm saying? He wanted, who is it? He wanted out. He wanted Victor out. He got him out. He wanted Tiffany out. He got her out. So you best believe if he puts Natalie up, then Natalie will definitely go, because it's whatever Paulie wants. That's what she was saying. And that's why I'm saying to be careful who you follow that recaps Big Brother, because sometimes they misinterpret things. I'm not perfect. At times I mess up, but I'm just saying, be very, very careful. Now, Frank tried to play victim to James. James was not trying to hear what Frank had to say. I don't even know why he was trying to convince James to put Day up as a replacement nominee. I mean, I did hear bits and pieces of the conversation, and it did seem like for a minute that James considered it, but I knew essentially that he would run to Natalie, and Natalie would essentially talk him out of it. So when it came down to veto selection, James chose Michelle, Frank chose Nicole, Bridget chose Day, and then Nicole tells us that she wanted to win the veto to help the house send Frank home. I really don't believe that. I know that Frank is one of her targets, but sometimes Nicole flip-flops a bit, so I was like, I'm glad that she didn't win the veto. But the competition was pretty good. They had Otevez, which was like another, I think that's what his name was, but he was basically Otev, but you know how every season, or the most recent seasons, they've been changing Otev a little bit more to make him more hip, and this time he was like a British dubstep techno DJ, and it was a little bit obnoxious and kept saying and I was like, oh, please no. I was like, oh my god. But anyway, Davon did good. Pretty much everybody in the competition did well. Was I surprised that Frank tried to work his magic on Michelle? No. Like Davon said, Frank is a salesman. And Frank had a gift for gab in season 14 as well. So I'm really honestly not surprised that he thought that she would fall for it. And for a few seconds, it did seem like Michelle was wavering in her decision in regards to whether or not she should use the veto. Apparently, other people caught wind of that, on top of the fact that people kept walking past the room where they were talking. Needless to say, Paul went in, Frank kicked him out. Then all of a sudden, all these other people came in, especially after Day and James were a little bit freaked out that Frank was sitting in the room talking to Michelle, and it did seem a little bit iffy. So pretty much most of the house came in the room, I think, save for Bridget, just to put a kibosh on the entire situation. Side note, Nicole and Corey did more than kiss in that scene, but Big Brother did the classy thing by chopping that scene all the way down to just a kiss. I have been lucky not to witness any sexy time between those two. I did not have such luck with Liz and Austin in season 17. But so far, I keep missing them hooking up, and I'm happy, but I'm sure at one point I'm going to turn on the feeds and I'm going to see it. And I'm going to be traumatized again. Now, as far as that situation with Paul and Frank, I just interpreted it as Paul basically telling Frank, your actions speak louder than your words. Because he basically made Frank, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but he let Frank know, like, basically, I see you. You're telling us one thing, you're doing something else. He could be referring to the fact that he said they wanted Davon out, then Tiffany went home. Like, in other words, Frank can't be trusted. I know a lot of people were confused as hell about that entire scene. But another scene that probably confused people was that house meeting. And just so you know, Day and Zakiya crashed that meeting. They were not invited to the meeting. All of a sudden, Frank decides to put it on the table. I want somebody to use the veto. and I want myself taken down, and I want Davon put up on the block. Davon stayed calm. I was surprised. Michelle was very bold in this episode, and during this meeting, she basically said, listen, who wants Davon put up as the replacement nominee? Cricket. No one said anything. Frank was like, obviously they're not going to say anything with Davon in the room. Frank was trying to play devil's advocate by trying to tell Davon, see, you can't trust A, B, C, and D. But on a side note, and by A, B, C, and D, I mean the rest of the house. On a side note, Frank was talking to Day and told Day that when he goes, if he goes, that she should trust Bridget and play with Bridget. Yeah, I was just as confused when I heard it. I was like, wait, what? They can't trust Bridget? But then it dawned on me, obviously. Bridget will do what Frank says. But still, that's completely confusing. So, Paulie said that he was basically going to pull Frank aside and tell him, listen, dude, you don't have the votes, you're going home. As far as the argument between Bridget and Michelle, all you need to know is that Bridget made a comment about Michelle's eyebrows. There was some tension which led up to this fight, which was a lot longer than what we saw in this episode. Either way, it was pretty explosive, and the way that they edited it made it seem like Michelle was being extremely petty and that Michelle has secret feelings for Frank or something like that. And to be completely honest, I don't think it was really that serious. And Michelle basically told Bridget that she's seen another side of Bridget with Frank. In other words, she's basically saying that Bridget is two-faced. Or the Bridget that people are seeing in the game is not Bridget. Obviously, because everybody wears different masks when they come in the house. From what I've seen in each season, nobody is truly themselves in the house. But whatever, it's pretty much a game move. So in the end, Michelle doesn't use the veto. She would have been a fool to use it anyway, because she would have been targeted either way. And Frank is stuck on the block and he feels defeated. Now he sees how everybody else felt. And Bridget's crying and says she won't campaign against Frank, but you bet your bottom dollar that Frank is still going to try to campaign against Bridget. Guys, that's about it. Let me know what you thought of the episode, these fights. Let me know who you think is going home this week, who you would like to see win the HOH, and who you would like to see nominated next week. As for me, I'm running on 4 hours of sleep, but I was like, screw it, I have to do this review for you guys. I love you all. Take care, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye, guys. Bye.